Hello and welcome back to our Noteworthy podcast. I'm Claire and this is my co-host Abby.
Hey guys.
And we are back bringing you another episode of Noteworthy. Noteworthy is our drama and music podcast at O'Neill, and today we have not one but two special guests. And I'd like to introduce them right away. So today our special guests are Meabh and Justus.
Hi.
Hello.
Yay.
So both Meabh and Justus are in select choir at O'Neill, and they are also in drama. They were both in this year's spring musical, Little Women. And if you would each like to introduce yourself or a little bit, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Meabh. In the musical, I played Marmee, who's the mother. And yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Fun.
Thanks for being here.
Hi, I'm Justus. As Claire said, I'm in select choir as a tenor. I'm also actually in the band. And I was in the musical as well, and I played Lori.
Cool. So I guess we'll just immediately start talking a little bit more about the musical. So we want to get your thoughts. Claire and I were also in the musical, so we have our own ideas of how it went, but it's always good to see what everyone else thought. So we already talked about the cast list, I think, on our last episode.
Yeah.
So we have an idea of who everyone else is. But let's talk about the actual performance. Was it in person? Was it virtual? How did it run?
So yeah, it was in person, thankfully. We were able to have it at a huge outdoor place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we did the show at Trophy Point. It was actually really interesting because the show, once we got into it, didn't reflect our rehearsals at all.
Right,
Because
yeah.
we got there and the venue just kind of opened up new opportunities for us.
Absolutely.
And so in rehearsals, we had been rehearsing it in a concert setting, which basically meant that it was a reduced amount of acting, a reduced amount of dancing. And it was more of standing at a mic and at a stand and just
in
kind
a
of
line.
in a line, just
yeah.
doing the show. And so and we had the chairs for all the actors on stage, and we were just kind of in a circle. And so it didn't really feel as much like a production. And once we got out to Trophy Point and we were able to see what the space allowed us to do, we were able to make the decision to remove the chairs from the stage and put them behind a
Yes.
bush off to the side, which was
It
perfect.
was
Perfect. And we were able to nix the stands because everyone had their lines down, which
Thankfully.
thank God
Yeah.
everyone,
Yes.
everyone made sure they were off book. And it was really interesting because the week of the show, we started adding blocking and stuff.
Yeah, we really threw it together very fast.
We really did. One of the things that I did in the show, the kiss with Joe, we didn't have that figured out, solidified until opening night of the show, which was just a really interesting thing. Most shows don't work like that.
Yeah, and I mean, no one could tell because no one came up to me and was like, "Oh, you definitely threw that together less than a
it
week
looked
ago."
good. It looked good.
It did. Everything looked, I think, pretty great.
And that is theater for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Adopting to what you have.
Yeah, but honestly, I've been telling a lot of people that at first something that was a bad thing because we weren't excited to not be able to perform in our own auditorium
Right.
and not have our stage and our set and our costumes.
Dressing rooms.
Yeah, we didn't know what to expect, but I think a bad thing turned into a really good thing because for anyone who's been to Trophy Point, the venue is just absolutely gorgeous. The weather, for the most part, was pretty good, although we did miss one of our performances because of rain. We were still able to have two and a dress rehearsal, and it was just a really nice open space. A lot of people could come and fit comfortably. I thought it was really nice.
I mean, that's what I was going to say. I think the venue allowed us to have people at our performance, in person, because if we were to do it at our auditorium, it would have been way more limited, and because it was indoors, it just wouldn't have been the same. But being outside, allowed us to have the capacity that we did.
Yeah, I'm really glad we did it outside. It really, as Abby was saying, it opened up so many opportunities. And also, if we had done it in our auditorium, we would have probably just had to pre-record it and distribute a recording
Yeah, not
instead of
have it
having a
live.
live audience. And I don't know about y'all, but once I got out there with the live audience, especially having it been so long since performing in front of a live audience, I felt their energy.
Oh, for sure.
And it really like made me like perform better than I had been in rehearsals.
Right.
Like, because you could see people's faces and they were getting excited about the show, and it made us excited, and it was just great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking to the location, Meabh, were you able to have like a set or costume changes?
I think for the most part, everybody had one costume that they wore the entire show. I think a lot of us had them like made for us.
Yeah.
Like got our measurements and everything like personally done.
They were beautiful.
For a lot of the costumes. And my costume was made by a lady named Marissa, and she did a very good job. I don't think she makes any money from helping with the musical.
No.
But she just volunteers, but she puts so much time into it. It's actually insane.
She is amazing.
She is a godsend.
Shout out to Marissa.
Yeah. And it was just, I think the costumes were really nice. Like, my mom even was like, they all looked so professional.
Yeah.
And, like, I think everybody felt so good in their costumes. It was really nice.
It was. And it was so of that time period, too.
Right.
Because it took place, like, during the Civil War.
I still haven't given back my vest. I don't want to part with it.
I'm
sad.
dry cleaning.
I think, though, like, it definitely helped because we didn't have a set and we only had very few props. Having a costume just completes your character. I mean, any one of us could have gone on that stage without a costume and put on a show just as good, I think, but it definitely was that extra like costumes, you know, that made you your character. So.
I remember strolling onto Trophy Point in my costume for the first like day of like full dress at Trophy Point. And I was so happy. I was like,
that feeling.
This just feels like it was meant to be worn here. Because if you haven't seen Trophy Point, like, it kind of, especially when you're wearing, like, you know, these 1860s outfits, it feels like it's a blast to the past when you're there.
Yeah, it really
and,
did.
like, it just felt like those outfits just fit where we were. And
it was perfect.
Beautiful.
It was, absolutely.
It was great.
And it's funny that my parents, because so we didn't have costume changes, so we wore the whole thing the entire time, but my parents actually loved it because they were like, and other like people that came, because you know which character is which the entire time. You're not changing outfits and they're like, oh wait, is that the mom or is that one of the sisters? I forget. Like, you wear the same costume the entire time and the audience members know like that's you, that's your character the entire time.
And like,
so it is helpful.
Low-key, it was just nice to not have to worry about a costume.
Yes.
Like, in years past, like especially in ensemble, there's been so many different costume changes. Like in Legally Blonde.
Legally Blonde. Oh my god.
10 different costume changes. It was ridiculous, and you'd forget which order they came in. So you'd, like,
I know.
You'd be like starting to change into one costume for like a scene in a college, but you like really you have to be in like your party outfit.
I remember would be running through the hallway behind like the stage,
after
like
Mamma
running
Mia.
And putting on pants at the same time.
After Mamma Mia with that wetsuit, like literally, I was backstage during, I think it was Super Trooper, and I was peeling the wetsuit off of my body from Lay All Your Love on Me, because it gets hot on stage with stage lights, and when you put a wetsuit on, it gets even hotter. And so I was peeling it off my body, and it was during the song too that I had my change. So I was like standing there, basically like in my underwear, changing backstage at the backstage mic, singing my background vocals part to the song that was going on, and I do not miss that at all.
That is hilarious.
Speaking of temperatures really quick, I think during all of the days we were at Trophy Point, it was like super hot, okay? And even on Thursday, like, it was nicer, but it was still like,
it was hot.
Yeah. And then we had the rain day on Friday.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday, it was in the
freezing.
40s.
It was
so cold. So when you went on that stage and you had those lights on you, it was like a
you
blessing.
were happy.
You're like, it's not hot anymore. Like, you're still cold, but it was warmer.
Yeah, it was warmer.
Every time I went back off stage and I sat down, I was shivering. I really wish I brought my comfy with me.
It was so cold.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
So, did a lot of people come see it, or did we have a limit, or how did that work?
I like paying for tickets, not paying for tickets. It was...
I think we capped it each night at 110 tickets sold.
Okay.
So that's, you know, we were supposed to have a maximum of like 110.
Right, but it's also
an open
public
space.
Yes.
People can just stroll in and we didn't, like, encourage it, but, like, we let people know.
Yeah, and if you wanted to make a donation, we had some donation boxes if you didn't buy a ticket.
I'm not sure how many people we had each night. I mean, if we went over our capacity, it was never by much. Yeah. But we had a pretty decent audience for the fact that we had to have a capacity because of COVID.
Yeah.
And you did have to pay for tickets, technically. So each actor was allotted 5 tickets they were allowed per performance. So we were in charge of distributing our tickets to who we wanted to come. And then, you know, some people probably did just stroll by, realize there's a show going on, and come and sit down. There wasn't anything we could do to stop that. As Meabh said, public space. But the audience was great, so I'm not going to complain about it. It was amazing to perform in front of them.
I had, like, forgotten what it was like to, like, perform in front of people because it had been so long. And I was like, oh,
it's a feeling
this
like
is
nothing
why
else.
I do it. I forgot.
Yeah.
But, so even though we had 2 shows, we still did end up missing that Friday show, and we didn't have as many people as we typically do. Like, in past years, we've had up to 700 plus people at
Mamma Mia,
one
was
show.
crazy.
Yeah.
So I think even though it was great to have people, we couldn't have everyone come. So luckily for us, we bought a recording, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little about this recording.
Yeah, so we splurged a little bit, and we put some big bucks toward some professionals to come in, and they recorded our Saturday night show. So they were standing out there in the 40-degree cold as well
that's
with
true.
us.
That's true.
And they got 3 separate camera angles.
4? Yeah, 4.
They got a whole bunch of camera angles. So they had a full shot of the stage, they had a close-up camera, and they had close-up cameras on either side.
Yep.
And so they, right now, as we are recording this, on June 12th, they are still working on editing that recording and mastering the audio. And that's another thing. They took the direct feed from our mics. They didn't just record audio of the entire space. They took the direct feed from our mics. Yeah.
That's why when they said, be careful, they can hear everything you say in your mic, whether it's on or off. That's what... Because they're recording
so my
That's what they
understanding
meant.
is, yeah.
My oh my gosh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so if my understanding is correct, at least they took the direct feed from our mics.
Yeah.
And
Whether
so
they were on
using,
or off.
Yes, whether they were on or off.
What about when I went to the bathroom?
That's what, every time I went to the bathroom, I was like, I'm sorry guys, I gotta pee. But that's my understanding.
I make sure to thank them every now and then and be like, thank you again for doing this.
Yeah.
But are they listening to 100% of everyone's mic?
Yeah, because they have to edit.
Yeah, they go back through and they're editing the audio.
Claire.
It's okay. They don't know you.
Oh, I mean, it's not like I said anything bad.
Yeah. Anyway, they're editing the video together. They're mastering our audio. And that recording should be out within probably the next week or so.
Yeah, hopefully.
And then as a club, the plan is to distribute it, and it would be for pay. Like, you'd have to pay to be able to get the
to stream it.
To get the link or to stream it.
Yeah.
Because of course, as Abby said, we didn't get to sell as many tickets, so we didn't get to make as much money as we really need to sustain the club off of this show. Mm-hmm. So this recording will also help us sustain the drama club and help the future years to be able to continue putting on productions to as high and even higher of a degree of goodness, I guess.
No, very true. So if you're at home listening and you weren't able to make it to a live performance of Little Women, or you just loved it so much that you want to see it again, stay tuned for that recording coming out. It's going to be really good. It's going to be really professionally put together, so it's something that you don't want to miss out on.
Yeah, this is our official plug. Consider it plugged.
Yeah, plugged.
So before we close out on Little Women and move on to other things, we do want to hear what your guys' favorite memory was from the show. So whoever wants to talk first. Claire and I, I'm sure, will speak here and there, but we want to hear from you guys.
Well, I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's the one that came to mind. It was like during one of our earlier dress rehearsals when we first got to Trophy Point, when we were sitting on a wall and we had Abby like holding her up. Like,
I
we were all holding
picture.
Abby,
and we
essentially.
took a picture, and like I had the shell to my head. Like,
It was just a really random,
Actually,
funny.
I think, well, actually, I'm gonna send that picture in, and we'll have it part of this podcast. It'll pop up so you can see.
Okay,
That'd be
maybe
great.
at the end
It was
after
just
our
like a show.
after our logo comes on, maybe we can have it.
Insert the picture. Maeve's memory.
it was like the first thing that felt like rehearsals before COVID,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
It felt like home.
Yeah,
It did.
no, it did. And
It
that kind of
did.
speaks to my favorite memory. I mean, mine's more general. Like, I think all of us, like, especially the seniors, like, we got so much closer through the show.
Yeah.
And especially, like, having not really seen each other or spent time with each other for an entire year plus. And, you know, we've really, like, all done the shows together since our freshman year. We've had such, like, a strong group of seniors. And so that was, like, my favorite thing or memory about the show. Like, just all of us growing closer to each other, being able to joke and have those, like, silly, funny things during rehearsals.
And I want to add on to that because I feel like in the past, like, we've been friends with each other, especially, like, throughout the shows and through when we would have practices and whatnot. But I felt like this year especially, we actually really wanted to hang out with each
Yeah.
other, even outside of, like,
Yeah.
rehearsals. Like, we all bonded, and it was, like that. Like,
Yeah.
overnight,
Yeah.
we were like, no, let's like, hang out.
like that
Yeah.
like 3-day stint where we all just hung out every
like, every
Yeah.
day.
It was like Friday night, Claire's house, Saturday night, Claire's house.
Sunday night, Maeve's house.
We saw, like, we went and saw the movie together.
Yeah,
we should see
no,
another
it's
movie
fine.
together.
We
Yeah.
should.
For sure.
We
Like,
should.
I really want to see that in the Heights. Like, I know you've already seen it.
No,
I want to see
wanna
it
see it
so
too.
bad.
Did you already see it?
Yeah.
Was it good?
It was so good.
I
wanna
wanna
see
watch
that
it.
so
You gotta watch
bad.
Spirit too. You gotta
Like,
watch
I really
Spirit.
think we should
Right,
plan
let's
this,
go.
like, and go see that. Like,
Okay.
I want to so bad.
Yeah, so
Well-
you were just planning, but
Yes.
like I said, like, we all got so much closer, and I will forever be grateful. I think part of that was COVID, you know, not seeing each other, like Claire said, but I don't know. It's like overnight we were like, this is our last time together,
Yeah.
and for some
Yeah.
reason we all just want to be with each other.
Yeah, we
So-
were really like a family on and off the stage.
I think-
I love saying that because our
Yeah.
characters were family.
Yeah.
I
and
think you're
yeah,
right, though.
yeah.
Like,
I think
Bam.
my favorite memory. I'm split between two right now, so I'll just say both of them
Go
because
ahead.
why not?
yeah.
So I have a favorite from opening night and a favorite from closing night. Opening night, my favorite memory was definitely going out and doing my first song in the show, my solo,
Aw.
because you know I have not really been like known as a singer at our school
Yeah.
or like known to really do singing, and so I went out and I did my solo, and I saw my best friend who goes to school in Colorado right now. I saw her in the audience. And the look on her face when I started singing was priceless. She
Yeah.
was freaking
Aw.
out because she was super excited. And so
Yeah,
that was
that's
really
amazing.
nice opening night. And then closing night, this memory is a little bit more chaotic. But when we had kind of like figured out the whole kiss between Joe and I, so I was on stage and we were getting into that scene. And as we were in that scene, it kind of clicked to me that I was like, wait, there's a kiss in this scene. And so we get into the scene and we get going, and I'm saying the line that like at the end of this line is the kiss, and I look backstage because I'm already facing towards like our backstage area, and I look back there and I see everyone.
man.
I see everyone. All these three included, huddled together, like pointing and laughing, and I would.
We
and
couldn't resist. We
it
couldn't
was-
resist.
It
I
was
had
so
to see
fun.
it. I
was
had
so
to see
funny.
it.
It was hilarious.
And like them pointing and laughing and stuff just almost made me break character on stage. But I was like, no, I have to hold it together. So I got through with the scene and I did the kiss and everything. And that was just such a funny memory to go back on. Just remembering all of them huddled together, like pointing and laughing and stuff. And I was like, they really couldn't let me just do the scene.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That was
I mean, did you really expect anything else
No.
from us?
You couldn't
No.
have. I'll close with for Little Women, I'll close with my favorite memory. On closing night, we had finished performing, the seniors gave their speeches, got their presents, yada yada.
Oh.
And actually, my mom caught this on camera.
it's so
It's
sweet.
so sweet.
I literally,
yeah.
I won't shut up about it. I think I even made a TikTok. Like, I love it so much. But the final music plays for our like final bows, and we it was Meabh, Claire, Jacqueline, and I, and we all look at each other and just run to the center and hug.
Yeah.
And Claire and I are bawling.
Yeah.
And
You can see, like, Maeve's laughing at my tears.
and Meabh were laughing. But it was, like, the sweetest moment. And I am so grateful my mom caught that on camera. I'll send that in, too.
Yeah, we need to put it in at the end as well.
I wasn't there because I had already run off stage because I wanted to get my mic off and get out of costume.
But, yeah, no, it was just such an incredible moment, and it was the perfect way, in my opinion, to close our time at O'Neill Drama. So, fave mem.
Oh, I love that.
All right, so enough about Little Women. We've talked about it plenty, but let's talk a little bit more about you guys specifically. So, Justus and Meabh, we want to know about what you're doing next. What's next in life, college, and beyond. So...
Yeah, so I am heading off to Ithaca College next year, and I'm going to be majoring in music education, and so I am doing that with my main instrument, which is the saxophone.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's what I'm heading off to.
Oh, wow. We're so excited for you, Justus. That sounds awesome. So you did say that you're majoring in music education. So what do you want to do with your life then?
Okay, so obviously, like, simple answer, the goal is to become a music teacher down the road, but I have a few other ideas of things I want to do with that. One, on the side, I know a lot of music teachers do this, is to have, like, a private studio where I do private lessons on at least saxophone, because that's the instrument, obviously, I'm most comfortable with. But, you know, in college, I'm going to have to learn all the other ones because of my majors, so I'll probably at least be able to do some sort of beginner-level classes in those as well. And the other thing I want to do is start or help in some sort of nonprofit or charity for making music more accessible to lower income communities and lower income students.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Because, especially instrumental music, like, it's very expensive to get into because, you know, instruments cost a lot of money. With, like, good quality instruments, good quality, like, supplies for instruments cost a lot. As a reed player, reeds, those cost a lot of money. And lessons also cost a lot of money. And when you're playing, like, competition level music, like that sheet music, you also have to pay for that as well. So, you know, a lot of money's going into the instrument, the reeds, if you're a reed player, the materials that you use to maintain your instrument, and into the music and into the lessons. So one thing that I want to do is start a nonprofit or charity that works towards getting funding to help people who want to pursue careers in music or want to learn more about music in general. Even if they're just going to do it for a couple of years, get the materials that they need to do that. Or even, like, be able to get them to borrow the materials they need to do that. And then another thing that I want to do with that is get a collection of other music educators. And I'm hoping I meet people who like the idea of this in college. Other music educators who would be willing to participate in, like, a monthly or even just annually, like, master class where we, for free, give out, like, a big class lesson to these lower income students so that they can at least have a chance of getting into music.
Right.
I love that. That is so inspiring for all of us. So I know for most like music majors, you often have to audition into the college. So did you have to audition, and what was that audition process like?
Yeah, so I did auditions for all 5, technically I auditioned to 6, but we don't talk about the 6th one. But I did auditions for all 5 of the schools that I applied to. And those were Ithaca College, SUNY Potsdam, UMass Amherst, University of Hartford, and Susquehanna University.
Nice.
And so what I did beforehand is I took a private lesson, or I took a lesson with each of the saxophone professors at each of the colleges.
Oh, wow.
So I did 5. Yeah, I did 5 separate lessons with these professors just to see how I meshed with them and to see how, like, I liked their teaching style and to see if it just worked for me and the way I learn. And that didn't help much because I liked all of them. Which, I mean, I guess there's a reason they're professionals that are teaching at these colleges. But so I did that first to make sure that I wanted to audition to these schools and that I wanted to apply to these schools. And once I was like, yes, I like these professors, then the audition process happened. And because of COVID, I spent the entire time prepping for my audition virtually. So my lessons, I learned the entire audition piece that I did, which is a NYSMA level 6 all-state piece.
Yeah.
Because that's typically the level you want to do when you're doing college auditions. So NYSMA is like New York's way of getting into all-state bands if you're not from New York. I don't know if we have any outside of New York listeners here. And level 6 all-state pieces is the highest level on the NYSMA scale. So the piece that I did, if there's any saxophonists out there, is the Roger Boutry Divertimento, and I did the first 2 movements. But I learned the entire piece virtually.
Difficult.
Which was very difficult because there are a lot of things that you can't really see as the teacher from my saxophone teacher's perspective to help me learn it. So I prepped that piece fully virtually, and then for the auditions, each school had different requirements for what they needed. And so some of my auditions, I sent in a pre-recorded video, and for some of the auditions, I did live, and some auditions I did a mixture of the two things.
Okay.
So one of my schools required a completely unedited video of 8 scales, 2 etudes, and etudes are just like a shorter piece of work that show off more of like a technical study. They're more of like studying certain aspects of music. So typically when you audition with an etude, they ask for a slower one at a slower tempo, and those usually show off your lyricism and your ability to make music. And then a faster one, which shows off more technical cleanliness and technical ability. So I had to do an unedited video of scales, etudes, and then the 2 movements of my piece. And then for another one, I had to do a video of all 12 major scales and all 12 harmonic minor scales.
Goodness. That's a lot.
Unedited. So it was like 24 scales in a row unedited, and so I was like, ooh. And it was supposed to be from memory as well. So I just stared out a window and I recorded them. And then I had to send in the solo piece again. And then for the school that I ended up choosing, Ithaca, that was actually the only audition I did that was fully live.
Oh, wow.
So I had to play my solo over a Zoom call, and I had to play scales over a Zoom call, and I had to do sight reading over a Zoom call. And then I also had to do a sight singing section for that. And then I had to do an interview. All of the schools also required an interview as a music education student. They wanted to make sure that I was, deciding to go into music education for the right reasons, and that I was actually passionate about it, and that I'd actually have the type of personality that would reflect well to being a teacher.
Yeah.
So that was the process. It took a while to hear back from all the schools, but
I bet.
If you get the chance and you plan on auditioning to schools, just do the audition in person. Please.
If you can.
Schools, please let students do auditions in person, because if I never have to do a virtual audition again, I will be happy about it.
Wow. So it sounds like the audition process was really complicated. Definitely, if you're interested, start early. Start looking early. Start preparing early. But you got exactly where you're supposed to be now. You're happy with Ithaca, which is just amazing. And before we move on to Meabh, I'd love to know why the saxophone.
Yeah, so I actually originally wanted to play the oboe. That's kind of an interesting one to be like.
The oboe.
I was 5, and I was like, I want to play the oboe. And then I don't know when, but I just kind of lost my desire to play the oboe.
I wonder why.
I do really want to learn the oboe now, though, because I'm looking at college and I'm going to be taking technique classes, which is basically where you learn all of the other instruments that you would find in a band. Okay. And this is a little bit of a tangent. With Ithaca, they prepare you to be able to teach band, choir, and orchestra.
Oh, wow.
So I have to take strings classes, I have to take vocal classes, and I have to take instrumental classes.
That's
on
insane.
all of the band instruments. So that's going to be really interesting, and I'm going to learn the oboe, which I'm excited about. But my my obsession for the saxophone started when I lived in Texas about 9-10 years ago. I don't know where it came from. I just knew, like, I knew, like, oh, I can start band next year. I want to play the saxophone. And I was like, I'm going to play saxophone in the band and nothing is going to stop me.
Yeah.
And then I learned that we were moving to West Point. And at West Point, you could start band a year earlier in 5th grade rather than 6th grade where it was in my school in Texas. So I didn't have to wait as long. And I get there, and in band, we had to do like a instrument tryout thing to see if we could play the instrument we wanted. And I was like, well, I'm going to play the saxophone, so I better be able to make a sound on it. And my teacher better tell me I can. So I remember she taught us like the general like embouchure, which is like what your mouth does, for how to play the saxophone. And so I was like at home using like my 2 fingers to emulate a mouthpiece.
Oh my goodness.
Like practicing the embouchure.
Yeah, you were persistent.
And so I went in for my little like instrument tryout thing, and she was like, okay, so what instrument do you want to play? And I was like, I want the saxophone.
Ooh,
And she was like, well, okay, you also have to have a backup just in case you don't make a sound on the saxophone. And so my backup was euphonium. If I wasn't if I wasn't a saxophone player, I would right now be playing the baritone.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's wild. But I got the saxophone, and I've stuck with it for the last 8 years.
That's amazing.
That's awesome.
And I have had so much fun.
Wow.
Good.
And I'm keeping on going for the rest of my life.
Yay.
There you go.
That is really, really awesome to hear, and it's so inspiring for the rest of us or for younger students out there who are playing their instruments and aren't sure of whether they should continue that beyond high school or not. So thank you so much for sharing, Justus. We would love to hear what Meabh's plans after high school are. Meabh, are you going to college? If so, where?
Yes, I am. I am going to University College Dublin in Dublin, Ireland.
Wow, so you're going to Ireland.
Yes, I am.
That is insane.
That's so cool.
How did you get there? I mean, that's a huge thing, going to another country. So where did that come from?
Yeah, so my mom is from Ireland. She was born and raised there.
Awesome.
So all my cousins, all my family is over there, and usually we would visit for every summer, the whole summer basically.
Yeah.
But because of COVID last year,
Right.
we weren't able to. And I didn't realize how much I loved just being over there, living there, because when we go, it's not like a vacation, like we
No, you
live
live
there.
there.
Yeah.
We have a house,
Right.
like we live there.
Right.
So I was like, wow, like I really do love it there. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, at first, when I first started like thinking about colleges, I was
Right.
like, okay, like I'll look into it, because that's a big thing.
It's a big
thing.
step.
to move across the world to go to
Yeah,
college.
right.
absolutely.
So I was like, okay, I'll just look into it. But besides that, I was mostly applying to like state schools,
Right.
you know, for money and stuff. So for Ireland, I was going to apply to 2 colleges. I was going to apply to University College Dublin and Trinity College Dublin.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's the better known one.
I've heard- yeah,
because
I think I've heard
it's
of
like
that one.
older and it's like pretty like more traditional, I guess.
Right.
Okay.
So I applied to 5 state schools when I was applying to colleges, and then I applied to University College Dublin, and I decided if I didn't get into University College Dublin, then I would apply to Trinity, because not only is it like more, not that it's harder to get into, it's just like a more
Yeah, more
like
traditional
and
school. Yeah,
Right.
So I was
we
like,
get
okay,
that.
if I had to choose between the 2, I'd probably choose University College Dublin, just because of all the different opportunities.
Yeah,
Right.
no, for sure.
And money wise, it's
Probably better.
Yeah,
better.
that's huge. That's huge.
So, I applied not thinking that I would actually get in, and then it was like the second school I heard back from, and I was like, oh, now I don't know what to do.
Oh my
because
gosh.
I had just assumed I'd be going to a SUNY, which like I would have loved to go to a SUNY. Like SUNYs are great,
Yeah.
but I didn't think it would be an option at all.
Yeah.
Like I thought I'd be choosing between some different New York schools, but then I was like, oh, I could actually do this. And like the more I looked into it, I was like, I really like how many different opportunities there are at this school. Like there's so many clubs, there's so many different courses you can try.
Yeah.
Like so many different options for how you take your courses.
That's so cool.
So yeah, I'm just really excited.
Yes. That must have been such like a good feeling, like getting in and then thinking like, wow, like I can actually make this happen.
Yeah. So you heard it here, folks. Maeve is going to Hogwarts. But that, in all honesty, like that's really cool, and we're very happy for you.
Yay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So what is your major?
So I am doing a joint major where I major in 3 different studies, and
Oh wow.
so I'm doing English, drama, and film, and
Nice.
so it's a 3-year course, so you
Okay.
graduate in 3 years.
Awesome.
So for the
Ahead of
first
the
year,
game.
for the first year, I study the 3, and then it's really nice because you get to like actually study all 3, and then
Yeah.
you choose which 2 you want to go on with. Like
Oh.
you don't do all 3 for the whole. That's why it's joint, like 2.
Okay.
So you choose the 2 that you like the most,
I see.
and then you continue for the second and third year with those 2. So you're
That's awesome.
yeah. So
It's really interesting.
That is, yeah.
So I think that's really smart because you get to like, it's not like you have to decide right away, because in Ireland it's like you can't go in undeclared. You have to declare a major before you go in.
Okay.
Because there's no like gen ed classes. You go straight into like doing your major.
thing.
That
Yeah.
would be so nice.
Wow.
Transfer.
Yeah. I never have to take a math class again. I'm so excited.
I would be too. Calc.
So yeah, I'm just really excited to see which ones I end up going with.
That's so fun.
yeah.
So with your major, I heard drama in there. Are you performing with your major or just studying it? How does that work?
No, for English, drama, and film, English, it's like, English, you read, you
Right.
analyze,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
for, like, the drama and the film, it's, like, it's just studying, like, different
Okay.
characteristics within each
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Wow.
And it's a lot of, like, workshops and, like...
Yeah.
Like, they do the lectures, obviously, but they like to have it more, like, small groups, which I think is great.
Yeah.
I think I learn better in that setting.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of like going to like plays and musicals and
Oh,
stuff, like
fun.
going and seeing
In
theater,
Ireland too. Whew.
which I'm so excited for. I'm so
Awesome.
excited. So,
Oh my gosh.
Do you plan to continue to perform in any way? Or
yes, I do. I plan to at least audition for the University College Dublin like choir.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Which you can get like scholarship money from that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
It's a pretty
hopefully.
competitive activity at the school. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But there's also like, they don't call them clubs really over there. They're called societies. And
Oh.
I really want to join the musical society. So
Oh.
I'm hoping I can continue to do musicals for at least a
Wow.
little bit longer.
Yeah.
That's super
Yeah.
fun.
So
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
really cool.
I mean, you've
Maeve.
got an amazing voice, so.
Thank you.
You do.
for sure.
It's gonna be really, really cool. Who else gets an experience like that?
Yeah.
Speaking of her amazing voice, if you watched Little Women, throwback, you get to hear her amazing voice in a whole bunch of solos.
It's
Just
another
saying.
plug.
Yes.
Go get the link.
Another plug.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I'm glad we got to hear from you guys, but I think it's only fair to our loyal viewers for them to hear a little bit about what Claire and I are doing. So Claire, what's next?
Yeah, so this fall I will be attending Northeastern University. Northeastern is in Boston, Massachusetts, which I'm so excited about because I wanted to be in or near some sort of city. And I was considering NYU in New York City, but I think like Northeastern and Boston was a better fit for me, so that's
Yeah.
where I will be heading. I'm entering as undeclared in their College of Health Sciences because I am really interested in STEM and all the opportunities in that field, which is something a little different here. I might be the odd one out. But I'm entering as undeclared because I have a lot of things that I'm passionate about, and I just want to explore that in college. I'm not going to put, a definite thing on it right now. I'm also interested in education. May not be necessarily music.
Join
but
me as a teacher.
yes. And although I'm not pursuing music professionally, I definitely do want to keep it in my life. I did audition over the spring for a scholarship for Northeastern's choir, kind of like what Maeve was talking about. So that was like Justice was talking about, you record ahead of time videos, a few different songs that are different stylistically, sent them in. I got a call back for it, which was really awesome.
Yay.
And that callback was a live audition. So that was like on Zoom with their conductor and, like live sight reading and all that fun stuff.
Sight singing.
Yes.
Ooh.
And then I got waitlisted for the scholarship. But the conductor was, encouraging, like, oh, you should still, audition for groups. So I'd love to audition for their choir. I'm also interested in their a cappella groups or maybe even musical theater. Yeah. So
You're on the next season of Sing That Thing.
Yeah. That's an a cappella TV show, if any of you don't know that. But yeah, I'm excited. I will always keep music in my life. So I'm excited to see what that holds. What about you, Abby?
So I'm planning on going to BYU, Idaho, which is in Rexburg, Idaho, or Sexy Rexy, as they all call it. And I'm majoring in performing arts with an emphasis in theater. But I do have a feeling that it might change. I love theater, and I will forever pursue it as a hobby, but as a career, I'm not entirely sure. It'll just depend, because after a year at BYU Idaho, I plan to serve a mission for my church. And then when I get back from that, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I will pursue my education, but I don't know where that'll take me. Because as much as I love theater, I also have other interests.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that would be architect and interior design.
Oh, okay. So maybe I'm not the only one, the odd man out, not doing music.
We will see. But like I said, I will always and forever pursue acting and theater. And you will see me in a movie winning an Oscar one day. So
mark her words. You will see it.
It just depends on when. But yeah, that's what I plan to do from here and on out.
Yay, fun. It's been such an awesome experience doing this podcast and seeing how much we've grown and hearing about all of your future plans. I'd like to thank you all for listening at home, but I'd also like to thank our special guests, Meabh and Justus. Thank you for coming today.
We appreciate your presence.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we loved hearing your perspective and your opinion on things. So yes, this is our final episode. We've reached our Noteworthy Coda. Abby, what is a coda, by the way?
Well, Claire, a coda is a musical ending, and this is ours.